Welcome back. I'm Will, the Unconventional Polyglot, and in this video, I want to talk about some of the potential disadvantages to studying languages simultaneously. And if you haven't seen my last video on the potential advantages of learning multiple languages simultaneously, click on the icon at the top of the screen. You should have had me make this video, man. I know all about the disadvantages of learning multiple languages simultaneously. Do you have a key to my house or something? How do you keep getting in here? You know, I might regret this, but okay, why don't you go ahead and give the disadvantages of learning multiple languages simultaneously? Oh, really? Yeah, sure. And your mom will have something to remember you by while you're in the Czech Republic. Wow, thanks. So, okay, well, disadvantage number one to learning multiple languages simultaneously is that it takes longer to learn any one language if you're also learning a bunch of other languages. Yeah, that's likely true. So, if you have a limited amount of time to learn a language, say you're going on a big foreign trip in 6 months, 9 months, a year, whatever length of time, or you have a job coming up in another country and you need to learn as much of a language as you can, as fast as you can, then sure, learning multiple languages at once is going to be a really bad idea for you. But if you have the time available and there are several languages you want to learn, then absolutely you can try learning several languages at the same time. In fact, check out my video on the Unconventional Polyglot Multiple Language Acquisition Method by clicking on the link above. Okay, well check this out. Disadvantage number two is that most people don't have time to spend learning a bunch of languages every day. Yeah, you're right, and that's why, as I explain in my video on my method for learning multiple languages simultaneously, once I reach the more time-intensive stage of language learning, which I call stage 2, I generally like to limit myself to no more than 2 primary target languages at once, spending a majority of my time on those languages, and then spending much less time on other languages, my secondary target languages. Maybe, but hear this. Disadvantage number 3. If you're studying multiple similar languages, you're going to mix them all up. Yes, that is true. For example, if you're trying to learn Spanish and Italian, or Spanish and Portuguese, or German and Dutch, or Mandarin and Cantonese at the same time, there's a very high likelihood that you're going to mix things up, maybe frequently. However, if you are willing to work through those mistakes, then these mix-ups will become less and less frequent as these languages are solidified in your brain. And these similarities over time can actually work to your advantage. So just to give one particular example, 2 of my primary target languages for the past year plus have been Portuguese and Spanish, which are 2 members of the Iberian branch of the Romance languages. So these 2 languages have a lot of similarities, whether it's grammar, the different conjugations have a lot of similarities between the 2 languages. A lot of words are very similar and sometimes exactly the same, although there are some false friends. But one thing you notice after studying more and more of these languages is that there are typical characteristics that Spanish has and that Portuguese has that can fairly easily differentiate them. So one example is that in general, when words are fairly similar between Spanish and Portuguese, the Portuguese version of the word is typically a little shorter. For example, the verb to have in Spanish is tener, whereas in Portuguese it's ter, one less syllable. Another quick example is the word for wind. In Spanish it's viento. In Portuguese it's vento. A little bit shorter. Another thing you notice, usually fairly early on, is particular suffixes. So in Spanish, words that typically would end in tion in English and in cion in Spanish, situation, realization, institution, in Spanish would be situación, realización, institución. Now in Portuguese, these same words would have a são ending. Situação, realização, instituição. So you'll find these kinds of patterns and similarities really in any two languages that are fairly closely related. And once you have enough experience in these languages, you can use these relationships, these similarities, these patterns to your advantage in language learning. I don't know. I'm still very skeptical. I'm pretty sure I'm going to avoid learning Slovakian while I'm learning Czech. Hey, that's fine. You control your own plans. True that. Now, disadvantage 4 is that if you want to change the language on your computer or your phone to another language to get more exposure, and you're learning a bunch of different languages, what do you choose? Ah, yes, that is true. But if you take my advice on not having more than 2 primary target languages, then it's not really that much of an issue. You could change your laptop to one language, or tablet or whatever, and your phone to another language. Of course, if someone else in your house really needs to use your computer, your tablet, your phone, and they don't know the language that your device is in, that could lead to some conflict. But that's an issue for some other video. Okay, fair enough, smart guy. But disadvantage number 5 is all about the cheddar. You know what I'm saying? The more languages you try to learn, the more it's going to cost you, right? To some extent, you're right, but most apps, most language learning apps, for example, some of those are free, some of those do require some money, but they generally don't charge by the language that you're learning. So for the apps that do cost money, you're paying to use the app, no matter how many languages you're trying to learn with that app. So if you're using an app to learn 5 or 8 or 10 languages instead of 1, then you could look at that as being more economical. And things like watching YouTube videos, that doesn't cost you anything except time. And when it comes to reading, there are a lot of graded readers and short story books out there that are really very affordable, especially if you get them on Kindle, for example. So depending on what resources you're using, learning several languages versus learning one language doesn't have to amount to a significant cost difference at all. Okay, whatever. Well, thanks for joining me, and thank you for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and I welcome whatever comments you have, whether you agree with me or disagree with me, please subscribe to my channel and give this video a like. I would greatly appreciate it. Also check out my podcast, also called The Unconventional Polyglot, available on most podcast platforms. And stay tuned for my next video, which is going to be the first in a series of 3 videos covering recommendations and my opinions on a variety of materials for learning Spanish, starting with language learning apps. So I hope you'll check out that series. And again, thanks for watching. Goodbye.